Hello, I'm Archibald Chesterfield III, and today I'm presenting the series, What is the Best Rolex? And I'm looking at whether it's a sports or a dress watch. And I'm actually wearing a ArchieLuxury, which is an odd choice considering the topic is what is the best Rolex. But anyhow, sports or dress? And Rolex is one of the few brands where you can don a tuxedo and you can wear a Submariner. James Bond, the ultimate king of chic, the king of cool. He wore a no-date, no crown guard piece in the original Bond movie. Later incarnations of the Bond franchise involve the 5513. That's the no-date plastic Submariner. Sports or dress? What is the answer? The most important thing is you stay with an Oyster. Forget the Cellini line. Forget the Cellini line. Stick with an Oyster and I'll make you a star. Sports or dress? I'm Archibald Chesterfield III. Enjoy this video.
Sports or dress? That is a very important question that the owner of a Rolex needs to ask when making this decision to purchase a Rolex wristwatch. Sports or dress? And firstly, I want to steer the conversation away from the Cellini line. The Rolex Cellini line itself there is the terminal dog in the Rolex range. Yes, the Rolex Prince is quite an attractive model. Yes, it's based on the doctor's watch from the 1920s. But most of the Cellini models are not waterproof. They are pieces which are very difficult to sell on the secondary market. They are pieces which don't retain the value that an Oyster Perpetual or an Oyster manual wind would retain. My advice to you, the smart money is stay away from any of the Cellini range, regardless of your desire to own this model. Sports or dress? So any piece in the Oyster range can really be considered a sports watch. It's a waterproof case. It's waterproof, it's rugged, it's long lasting. Sports or dress? What do we mean by this here? To a large extent, the Rolex Datejust can be considered a sports watch. It was advertised in the 1970s on their brochure as being advertised placed next to a Jaguar XJS12, the V12 overweight sports Gran Turismo. That's right. It was placed next to that with hockey, polo mallet, and pretentious sports cup next to it. So the Datejust itself in the 1970s could be considered a sports watch. Times have changed, times have moved on. And the reality is, in today's world that we live, the Rolex Datejust and the Rolex Day-Date are considered dress watches. That's correct. Even though they come in an Oyster case, they are considered dress watches. Now, this is an interesting phenomena, but let's just not get too concerned with it. The sports range consists of models like the Explorer, the GMT, the Submariner, the Daytona. These are considered sports models. And the first thing I'd like to say is that we now live in the new millennium and the 90s ended a long time ago. The 90s are over. It's adios 90s, adios pink and grey interiors. So, sports or dress, what is the best choice? And I've got to tell you, whether you're wearing a business suit, a tuxedo, or you are wearing swimmers, any of the Rolex Oysters will fit the bill quite nicely. In fact, sports or dress, a Submariner, James Bond, the king of chic the king of cool, was featured wearing a Rolex Submariner no date in many of the Bond movies, and especially the first one. So, sports or dress, which way do we go? And the reality is, any wristwatch we wear today is in fact a dress watch. That's right, because let's be truthful, there are sporting dive computers, we've got iPhones, we've got everything to tell the time. A wristwatch is a piece of attachment which tells people about our class, our status, and our full potential. Now, the question is, sports or dress, which way do you go? And the honest truth is that any of these watches are watches which could fit into sports and dress category. I think the sports or dress question should really be phased at what features do you want and what features do you like. Sports or dress, the reality is any Rolex is a dress watch. Any Rolex can be worn with a suit tuxedo. Any Rolex indeed is a very fancy piece of kit. It's like saying a SUV by Lexus isn't really a true luxury car. A Mercedes G-Class isn't really a luxury car. A BMW X5 isn't really a luxury car because it has some SUV characteristics. The Rolex range itself of sports watches fit into this same criteria of being a sports watch with features that could classify the watch as a sports watch or a dress watch in any circumstances. Sports or dress, what is the best way to go? And I think the honest answer is, for retained value and a watch which just looks fantastic, I think the sports range just nudges out the day-date and date-just range. The sports watches are the premier choice. That's correct. And you can wear any of these sports watches with a suit, a tuxedo. You can wear them to work. You can wear them to a brothel. You can wear them when you're facing embezzlement charges. These are the sort of pieces that your mum, your future, your mother-in-law would have hoped the boy who comes through the door for her girl would be wearing. And the reality is, sports or dress, the best choices really are in the sports range. Rolex GMT, Rolex Submariner, Rolex Sea Dweller, Rolex Daytona. These are premier pieces which I think nudge out the date just and the day date. The other problem with the non-sports range, the date just, the day date, and the Oyster Perpetual, there is a lot of confusion with the size of these pieces. The Rolex Day Date has become the Rolex Day Date. It became the Rolex Day Date 2. Then it became Rolex Day Date 40. A similar mess has been caused with the Date Just as well as the Oyster Perpetual no-date models. My advice is, the smart money is the sports watches in the range. I think that is what you need to buy. The sports Rolexes. That is the smart money. That is the wise money. That is where I would be putting my cash. And let's be frank, an extra function, a complication can't be missed. Whether this complication is a diving timer, which can be used in the brothel, it can be used in the parking lot, it can be used when we're having lunch. That is a handy feature. Or we have a second time zone complication that can be very useful for our long-distance relationships. The girl in Thailand we've picked up. What time is it there, Mama-san? What time is it there indeed? And the The function of a second time zone is very, very useful. Sports or dress? What is the answer? The answer is sports. A very, very heavy-hitting sports. The reason for this is our society has changed. We no longer do much activity, and we need to promote sports by wearing a sports watch. There is nothing more sporting in life than sitting on the couch watching a Formula One race with a sports Rolex on one's wrist. This is the greatest attainment a modern man can achieve. So, to answer the question, sports or dress? Sports. I'm ArchieLuxury. This has been the best. What is the best Rolex? This is the segment on sports or dress, and I hope this has been useful to the brown, nasty fuckers in the audience.
Sports or dress? That is the question, my friend. What is the best Rolex? And let's face it, we're no longer living in the 90s. This is the new millennium. Any wristwatch you wear is a dress watch. And to be completely frank and honest with you, proper dive computers have surpassed the need for mechanical devices. But sports or dress, what is the best way to go? Well, with Rolex, you really can't go wrong. Sports or dress, as long as you stick away from the Cellini offshoot, any of the Oysters is a fine choice. But I think, myself, if you are looking for a piece that is individualistic and holds its own in a crowd, go sports! Go sports. That's right. I mean, just because one is wearing a tuxedo doesn't mean one can't wear a GMT, a Submariner, or a Daytona. Rolex itself is the ultimate dress watch in many regards. I'm Archibald Chesterfield III. I hope you've enjoyed this series. More videos coming. What is the best Rolex? See you later.
We specialize here in pre-owned Rolex watches. Rolex watch is a very special timepiece, and we always do the servicing exactly as factory specifications. We buy a pre-owned piece and we put it into brand new condition. We have Rolex certified technicians working on that. We completely disassemble the piece, we adjust and polish and change every single part of the watch.
You have to have certified watchmakers that know what they're doing. If you have an expensive car, you're just not going to bring it to any mechanic that doesn't know what they're doing.
You spend $5,000, it's like if you put money in the safe deposit box. And 1 or 2 years from now, you will keep having your $5,000. We have to spend a lot of money to get all this equipment together, but makes me feel I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. It's not a question of money, it's my passion.
Jewelers on time, simply the best.